been talking about how Team T is using yesterday's bombshell surveillance claims to say they were right about wiretapping, but the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee has a much different take on all of this, and Congressman Adam Schiff is joining us via satellite. Hey, Congressman, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Cool. So, all of this insanity happened yesterday. I mean, what are you guys feeling about it? Did you feel blindsided? How are you feeling about it?
Well, you know, certainly blindsided, but mostly just mystified. Here we're trying to conduct a credible investigation into a variety of allegations involving Russian hacking of our elections, including whether there were Trump campaign associates who colluded in some way with the Russians. And to have our chairman take evidence that he received perhaps in the dead of night and not bring it to the committee, and we still haven't seen it today, neither Democrats nor Republicans, but bring it to the White House when it's associates of this president who are under investigation, was just a complete head-scratcher. And then today I saw an interview with the chair where he was asked whether he got the materials from the White House, and he wasn't willing to rule that out. So it just gets more and more mystifying. And what concerns me is, you know, we need to do a real investigation of this, and we need to do it credibly. We need to do it in a nonpartisan way, and we can't have our chair acting as a
compromise,
as a surrogate for the administration. Yeah. He has to either have the surrogate role or the chairman role, but he can't do both.
Yeah.
Congressman Jedediah here. There are reports today that Nunes privately apologized to the Intel Committee. Is that true? Is there any truth to that?
You know, we did have a private discussion in the committee among all the members. I really don't want to go into the private discussions, but I certainly can say that, you know, we shared our concerns with the chair and with the majority about what happened yesterday and how the investigation is being conducted. We expressed our continuing desire to get to the bottom of this, follow the facts where they may, but the actions of yesterday really put a significant cloud over where that's possible. And I think it did underscore, been urging really all along, and that is we really do need an independent commission, completely separate and apart from Congress, that can conduct this at the same time.
When do you think you can expect to see those reports, and when can we find out what was actually in these reports, which we actually, to this day, to this minute, do not know where they came from?
You know, I don't know. We certainly asked the chairman that. He wasn't able to tell us when we might get them, if we might get them. Right now, the only basis we have to know about anything in them is what the chair has related. Right. So obviously it's impossible to evaluate any of this. I can't say even on the basis of what the chairman has said or represented about these intercepts, nothing in it vindicates the president in any way. Even according to the chairman's own representation, it didn't involve the Russia investigation. There's no evidence that the intercepts were anything but lawfully collected, which means that they weren't targeted at the president. So nothing in that contradicts what the director of the FBI said, the director of the NSA said, the Department of Justice said, which was essentially there's no basis for the president's slanderous accusation against his predecessor.
Right. Okay, this is Joy Behar speaking. You know, what do you think is his motivation, Nunes? He went to Paul Ryan before you, he went to the press before you, and of course he went to Trump before you, and Trump, of course, is the subject of the investigation. What was the motivation, do you think?
You know, I really don't know. You would have to ask him that. I have to imagine that he's having difficulty separating his role as a surrogate for the administration with his role as a committee chairman that has to do in a very important, arguably pivotally important investigation. And he's ultimately going to have to make that decision, but he can't do both of these roles, and it really compromises the work that we're doing. I think members on both sides of the aisle want to get to the bottom of this. They realize merits a serious investigation. But this just made that much more difficult.
Right.
You know, Nunes has been so critical of leaks. Did he totally contradict himself by giving out this information, including basically revealing that the alleged wiretap was legal and done under a FISA warrant?
Well, we shouldn't be talking about FISA surveillance, and I think all the members, including the chairman, have to be very careful about that. There is certainly an irony here, given the administration has been so critical about anybody talking about FISA, particularly in the context of Michael Flynn, that the chair would now start talking about FISA publicly and mention that members of the Trump transition team were incidentally collected. That's really not something to be talking about publicly. So you're absolutely right. I think it is more than a bit ironic.
Congressman, this is Sarah Haynes. Do you think it was ever appropriate that a former Trump transition team member was heading up this investigation in the first place? And do you think the chairman should now be removed from his role on the committee?
Well, I wouldn't say that, someone's involvement in a campaign per se makes them unqualified to work on an investigation, even chair an investigation. But if you take actions like this, where it calls into question your objectivity, calls into question whether you'll be willing to conduct the kind of investigation that's necessary, then it's a real problem. At the end of the day, it's the Speaker's decision about whether he thinks the chair can continue and be credible in this investigation. But I will say this, I think yesterday, more than any single event, underscored why an independent commission is so essential here. The Congress can continue to do its investigation and should, but I would sleep better knowing that there was a body that was truly apart from the Congress, that had no political considerations to weigh, that was looking at all this evidence.
Congressman, you made yesterday what some are deeming a by saying that there is more than circumstantial evidence now that the Trump camp colluded with Russia. Senator John McCain was critical of that. Others have been critical of that. Can you defend that statement?
Yes, and I don't view it as the same bombshell that apparently they did. Look, I've said that I thought there was circumstantial evidence of collusion or coordination, and that there was direct evidence of deception. And no one had an issue with that. I don't think anyone really contested that. On the basis of the information we keep getting, I can say, in my opinion, it's now not purely circumstantial. We had the FBI director testify in open session about this, acknowledge an FBI investigation. Obviously, this is now public. And I think it's fair to say that that FBI investigation is justified, that wouldn't be done on the basis of not credible allegations. And so I think it's appropriate to talk in general terms about the evidence. But I don't think it's appropriate for us to go into specifics and say, this is what we know, from this piece of classified information, or this is what we know from this witness. Right. But I do think in this investigation where the public is hungry for information, it is important that we try to keep the public in the loop. That's why we're having public hearings.
Well, you all have your work cut out for you. You got this health care bill you're voting on tonight, and, let's hope that it does not pass, because it's not a good bill. Thank you, Congressman Adam Schiff. Next time, when this sort of dust settles, you should come up and just sit with us, because I think you might have a good time with us, and we could pepper you with lots more questions.
I look forward to it. You're on. That's it.
Thank you, Congressman. We'll be right back.